That's great. That's great as well. But thank you guys so much for being here. I know your lives are so busy, and so the fact that you're willing to take a little bit of time each month to hang out with these students just means a lot. So I'm just actually curious. I think it'd be cool for each of you to hear, and for me as well. What made you say yes when I asked you to be a mentor this year?
You mean we had a choice? I didn't.
I always try to ask in a gentle way, but sometimes I can pressure a little bit. Shannon,
I,
Shannon said she had to pray about it, but Toby, I don't think you prayed about it. You just kind of the spirit was speaking.
sorry. One of the aspects of living on the lawn is that our dogs have not quite adjusted yet, so they may bark here and
That's
there.
okay. I like
But for me, I've always viewed mentoring as a unique way I could give back because there are so many people through my development who poured back into me,
mm,
and I can't give back to them necessarily. But I can pour into others. And so throughout my adult life, I have, whether it be elementary age kids, teenagers, or young adults, I've seen it as something that I can give to others to help them in the way that so many people have poured into me. So it's a no brainer for me. And on top of that, we lived in Lexington, Kentucky before we lived here, and I'm part of a fraternity, and part of one of our big platforms is mentoring, not only within the fraternity, but we took on an elementary school in Lexington, and once a week we went in, read with students, and really developed a mentoring relationship. So the reading part of it was kind of, it wasn't about the reading, but it was about the relationships we built and developed and mentoring kids along. So um, I just want to give back any way I can, just to repay how people have poured into me to help me get to where I am.
awesome. Thanks, Toby. Shannon, what about you?
What he said. Really, I think it's the same thing. I mean, I do feel like at this age, which I think I'm quite a bit older than you are, but I do feel like it's a bit of um, it's an opportunity to really actually learn from them, um, as well and be challenged, but also remember the challenges that I went through and was helped by in the same way. I had a sorority I joined because there were several women that I knew that were believers in the sorority. And I didn't know it at the time, but they were discipling me. and, uh, and I really do feel like I'm not discipling as a mentor, but I mean, I just pray that the Lord would use me. And the reason I prayed about it is because I do feel like it's a commitment. And so I don't want to say, yeah, I'll do that and then not be available. Um, so I do feel like it's been good. I've done it a few times with different people. And um, so it seems like a something that the Lord has really given me the opportunity to do. So I'm doing it.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, Shannon, you did it last year, so you're said yes again, right? Were you that's right. So once you're a mentor, I often go back to you. You're in my, all of you all will be in my Rolodex, or whatever you call it, my mental in there when somebody comes up that strikes me as a good match.
Yeah, I did
go
the
ahead.
center, the study center. I think I did for a year with one of the fellows there.
Okay.
So same thing.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
similar. Well, so I think y'all know a bit about the Horizons Fellows. We are now in our 10th year, and it was started a year before I got here, with this vision of being a space for a small group of students to pause in their 4th year, acknowledging that they've been poured into a lot. They've learned a lot in their classes. A lot of them have, oh, we got Jerry King coming in on his phone. I'll just pause for a sec. Hey, Jerry, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We just got through. Hello, Jerry. Good to see you. We just got through
Good to see you.
a little bit of introductions. And I was asking Toby and Shannon why they said yes to being a mentor. Toby lives on the lawn. He's a therapist. He's been here for 2 years. And Shannon, do you know Shannon Campanelli? She's been here for 6 years, married to a great guy named Rick Campanelli. And she is a former nurse. And Jerry teaches, you're the head of the art department at Covenant School. Is that kind of your title among many other things?
Yeah, it's the arts department.
The art-
So music, theater, visual.
That's right.
Yep.
All of it. So if you don't mind jumping in, why you've now been a mentor several times I've gone to you. So why do you keep saying yes to me? Do you feel threatened?
Yeah. You don't want to mess with Christy Yates. So I have to say yes. No, there are a few things I enjoy more than getting to know people, and especially these youngins still in formation. We all are, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Especially at this juncture of one more lap until launch and all the questions about, calling and what am I here for? What am I made for? And then wider questions, which inevitably come up too.
Yeah.
Does the universe make sense or not? And that kind of thing, little stuff.
Just the small things.
Yeah.
That's your specialty, right, Jerry?
Well, between your son and I, we're still trying to sort it out, but yes.
Good.
Oh, that's right. Your son, does he teach at Covenant too? So y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
He's my new BFF there. Yep.
Aw, I love it.
Would love. Yeah.
Well, I was just sharing a little bit more about the Horizons Fellows, which you all probably know about, but we're in our 10th year and meant to be this space for 4th years to just pause and reflect. I'm a big fan of reflection and making space for these really busy, overcommitted students to think and actually ask questions about all that they are learning in their classes and all that they may have been learning through fellowship groups. A lot of them have been leaders in fellowship groups, and so they've been pouring out, doing Bible studies, but they haven't really paused to reflect, like, what do I think about all this? Like, what are the questions or the doubts that I'm wrestling with, and where's there a space where I can safely ask these things and not be embarrassed by them? And so the Horizons Fellows is meant to offer that space. There's these fellows programs for after you graduate that are really popular, but not everybody has that opportunity to take a year off and do those. So this is really meant to be a year to think about your faith and your vocation and these sort of tight relational groups, both with the mentor and then with our cohort. And this year we have 9 fellows. And so I wanted to actually share a quote just to, I'm going to read it. It's sort of an extended quote from Parker Palmer, who is a wonderful Quaker. He's been an activist, writer, teacher. And it's something I actually just heard today him read. This is actually from an interview he did on Being, which is a great podcast that I love. And it just made me think about what you all are doing. He's quoting from a book he wrote called Healing the Heart of Democracy. And when you think like, well, what does healing the heart of democracy have to do with mentoring? I was just realizing that, healing our democracy starts in these intergenerational relationships. And Parker is a big fan of intergenerational friendships, and just what an important space that is to foster those intergenerational friendships, and how it can be kind of a radical thing what you're doing, and you're just meeting with this student, but this is how our democracy is healed, is these kind of small intergenerational friendships. So it got me excited about what you all are doing. So I'm just going to read what he shares because I think it's just inspiring, and he's a wise sage when it comes to vocation and mentoring. So he says, My last book is called Healing the Heart of Democracy. And in that book, I talk about 5 habits of the heart. But when I give talks about it, I say if 5 is too many for you to hold on to, you really only need 2. You need chutzpah and humility. You need the chutzpah to know that you have a voice worth speaking and things worth saying. And you need the humility to know that it's vital to listen because you may not have it right at all or only a very partial grasp on the truth. So I think it's in holding these paradoxes that we start to sort things out. There's so much of this life that we're all trying to live that's just not about either or, even though we've been trained to think in binary code. I mean that in the larger sense, the metaphorical sense of that term. It's both and. I breathe in and I breathe out. It would really be dangerous for me to say, I think I'm basically a breathing out kind of guy. So that's what I'm going to devote my life to. I am an individual with a voice. I am also embedded in a community on which I'm highly dependent, from which I came and to which I will return. And I include the community of the natural world in that. And I need both the chutzpah and the humility to be there fully, to be there now, and to be there in a life-giving way. And I just love that. I love if anything stirred in you. I love his idea of holding paradox. And I think when we work in mentoring and working with students, there's a lot of paradox. I think of in student development work, there's this paradox of challenge and support. And this is true for parenting. Like, when do you challenge your kid and when do you just support them and love them? Also with listening and speaking, Howard Thurman is another big fan of ours, especially with mentoring and vocation. And he talks about listening to the sound of the genuine within you. And so this idea of listening, but also speaking. And you're going to be doing a lot of both with your mentee. And when do you listen and when do you speak up? And just holding those things in tension. I just really appreciate. Anything come up for you all in that?
That was so good.
Send us that.
I will. I'll
Yeah.
send you the whole interview.
Please.
It's beautiful. It's an old one. I've been re-listening to ones when I'm in the art studio painting, and he's speaking with a young woman that he's befriended, a young activist. And I hadn't heard of her, but they're friends, and he's 75 and I think she's 30 or 35, and they have this really sweet friendship. That was just really beautiful to listen, and it just was timely to listen to it today before you all. Well, I feel like that's really like the heart of it. I know I sent you all some tips in a PDF, but those are practical things that most of them you probably would have thought of yourself. But I really just wanted to encourage you with kind of the spirit of what you're doing, and just thank you all for it. And also ask if you have any questions. Or Jerry, since you've been doing this for 3 years, I know Shannon, all of you have been mentoring obviously for many years, but maybe mentoring a Horizons Fellow is a unique thing in its own, especially because I do encourage the fellows to, the responsibility of meeting is on them, which, can sometimes lead to not meeting very often. And we've had mentee relationships where they've only met 2 or 3 times during the whole year, which is very frustrating, often for the mentor too, because they were expecting a little more. But that's where it's like trying to hold that balance of challenging them and holding them accountable, but then also letting them sort of see the results of their actions. But Jerry, you've had 3 different fellows now, is that right? And how any thoughts coming from those 3 relationships?
Yeah, there is no template. The generalities between the 3 of them, I'm sure, there are some, but I always take my time listening and asking, sometimes a bit off balancing questions for them, depending on who they are in their background. Some of them come with a surprisingly developed habit of best foot forward all the time.
Mhm.
And so hopefully subtly and without their detection, I try to dismantle that. And I want to ask about that other foot back there, so that they understand in a deep, visceral place that you can go there, buddy. You can go there. In fact, this is such a mid-60s thing to say. You know what? I'm getting to the point in my life where I'm not going to waste too much time not going there.
Yeah.
Let's get real, good, bad, and sideways. And yes, sometimes it is along the lines of, what am I going to do next year? What's my trajectory 10 years from now? What kind of work or ministry? That certainly figures in. But I find that a lot of times, the preoccupation with that is kind of symptomatic of their own formation, and that they're doing this because they've been schooled that this is what you do and this is how you do it, and these are questions you're supposed to be asking, and more than that, answering. And it's time now, step up.
Yeah.
And to hopefully relieve them of some of that pressure and angst, and maybe even by my own conversation or kind of awkward questions, meaning they make them awkward, to let them know that there's a whole lot of life that squirts out around the edges and that doesn't fit neatly within those categories, and the things that you think you need to be addressing right now, and so forth, without diminishing, how you're going to support yourself, and, what are you going to try in this interim year, and that kind of stuff. But just to cue them in that, you're a real guy, I'm a real guy. We're leading life, and life is weird. Life is interesting. Life can be vexing and perplexing and delightful, and sometimes all within 24 hours. So, there's not much of a script that, we got to stick with. And did you read your article? And did you answer those questions? And, and maybe part of the fruit of that is I remain friends with them all to this day. I mean, actively. So.
That's great. Welcome, Greg Gilbert. It's so good to see you. Another wonderful repeat mentor.
Yeah.
And do you know everybody on here? You might not know Toby or Shannon.
Toby, I don't recognize Toby. I'm Greg.
Hi, Greg.
And
then Shannon.
Familiar too.
Shannon.
Yeah.
She has a medical background like you, Dr. Gilbert. She was a nurse for many years.
Oh yeah, excellent.
Yeah, I'm running out of battery, so I'm plugging in.
Oh, that's why we're going on a walk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you busy yet? I'm testing
I thought you kidnapped us or something.
So Dr. Gilbert he's a serial mentor, and
I mean, killer too.
I mean that in the best sense of the word. And I think you all would, Greg, you would have really resonated, I think, what Jerry just said, and you would have loved, I just read a quote from Parker Palmer that I'll send you all about holding paradox in these relationships of both challenging and supporting the students, listening and speaking, and just the importance of these intergenerational friendships. And I even was bold enough to say that you all are helping to heal our democracy by these mentoring relationships, that I was inspired by Parker Palmer earlier today. So I hope that's a good rah-rah.
Yeah. By the way, I go by Greg.
Yes.
I always have, but I'm retired a whole week now, so I definitely am Greg.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Greg is also our family doctor, and it's just really hard for me to call him Greg. So that's why I keep calling, and it just sounds so nice. But Greg, do you want to share anything, Greg, about just your experiences? Well, one, why did you say yes again to mentor, and what draws you to mentoring, and anything you'd like to share around that?
Well, I caught the tail end of what Jerry was saying. I'm very relational, probably like you, 4. And I just enjoy people. And I feel like I always, as a kid, when I was younger, like the age of our mentees, appreciated the whatever wisdom it was with a small W, but anyway, that people could share with me. And it didn't have to be medicine. It could be about my faith. It could be about cars. I don't know, anything. And
Yeah.
so I've just always enjoyed. Now, some are more engaged than others of the mentees, and I forget how many I've had, maybe 4, I don't know. And so when one of them got married, I was hoping I would at least not get an invitation, but at least be notified, because he's in med school now. But that's all right, you know. So some people take it more seriously than others.
Yeah.
And you know, I probably could do more myself as far as keeping in touch. But I love doing it. You know, I've always had students shadow me. I've always had medical students, third-year med students from UVA, and I just love to teach. So, but I'm also willing to say I don't know, or you know, I don't want to mislead you with my answer to your question. So, anyway,
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah.
Well,
So,
go ahead.
oh, so Toby, how do you fit in this? Since I haven't met you yet.
My wife gave a talk at one of the events. Sorry, my dog texting me, and I guess just through networking, I was invited to be a mentor.
Okay.
So Toby just moved here a couple years ago. He's a therapist, and his wife is Dean Nicole Jenkins, the dean of the comm school.
Okay.
And he's
Okay.
zooming in from Pavilion 5 on the lawn with a
Oh, you guys got a
sweet dog.
pavilion. Good for you.
So
That's great.
it's fine. We love dogs. Well, I don't want to keep you long. It would have been longer if we had more people for you all to interact with. All of the mentors are just phenomenal people. I'll list off actually their names.
Yeah.
Catherine Asink is a midwife. Who she used to live here, but then I think she's from this area, but she is mentoring a fellow who wants to be a midwife. I'm really excited for them to connect. Catherine Mutter is an emergency room doctor and a friend of mine, and she's mentoring someone who is pre-med. Holly Radenberg is an attorney. Her husband is actually directs all the music at the choral society or something at UVA, Sloan. And then Steve McNerney, some of you might have known Steve. He's retired from PVCC teaching there. And then Becca Menning is a friend of mine who her husband teaches in the religious studies department, and she's a community organizer and a nanny and a mom. And we just have a wonderful group of people. If we were all hanging out together, we'd have a very good time.
Wait.
So,
right.
But I wanted to be respectful of your time. And September, in the past we have done like a meet and greet, but it's a challenging time with so much startups. But often what I've started doing is in January, sort of like a mid-year check-in, I've opened up a tab at Seaville Coffee and just let people come and go for lunch, coffee, and just hang out, and we can check in, and just another chance to get to hear
Good idea.
one another.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, I'm always available. I'm in Tuesday, Thursdays, always happy to grab a coffee, treat you to a coffee is what I would do as a thank you. But happy to talk more. But I mean, most of you know the ropes since you've done this before. I will be nudging these students. We have our fall retreat September 23rd through 24th. That will be our first gathering as a group. So you can be praying for that 24 hours. It's a time where we go and everyone, it's really simple. Everyone just tells their story. Why are they here? What is their faith journey? And I encourage them to open up as much as they feel comfortable. And I say that, and every time there's people that share things they've never shared in a group before, it's really a powerful time. These students are often very vulnerable, and we really bond over that weekend. And then after that, we just meet once a month. So it's kind of hard because we have this really intense bonding experience, but then we just meet once a month for dinner and conversation. It's hard to keep that up, but it does create a good sort of foundation to work from for the rest of the year. They get a curriculum, which most of you probably have. If you don't, I'll send a new copy. I think there's a few different articles and I handle it very loosely. We don't go through it super closely, but there's just articles that are meant to be provocative, or encouraging, like a little bit of both. Some are inspiring, some are really like difficult and challenging. And that's kind of the point, is I'm wanting them to wrestle with some really difficult issues before they go out into the world, where they're going to confront difficult issues about diversity, pluralism, sexuality, all of these things, race. We really like dive into everything that is painful in our culture and in our lives. Hopefully we touch on it and allow space for conversation for that. So I'm grateful for you all to, sometimes you might process with them some of our monthly conversations, but you also might just be going off on what happened to them that week and with their girlfriend or boyfriend, or something happening at home. So I'm sure you'll be flexible to go wherever the conversations go. And just thank you. Like, they're really like, it's such a privilege to know that there's people like you out there that are willing to donate their time in this really meaningful way. And if your fellows if they are really slacking off, do let me know. I remind them, and but every year sometimes I need to nudge them. And you can, if you feel comfortable, I don't want you to feel responsible, but if they are kind of slacking off, feel free to reach out to them. But again, I don't want you to feel like this is this burden that you need to, meet with this kid if they're hard to get in touch with. But hopefully we'll strike a good balance of that. But any other questions or thoughts, concerns?
Yeah, I'm excited to meet this gentleman.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, let me just say a prayer for our year together, and I will release you all to get ready for bed, hopefully, or watch some US Open tennis, which is what I've been doing a lot of. Lord, thank you for this time. Thank you for these wonderful people who are willing to share their stories, their hurts and their hopes with these young people. I pray for their conversations and for spaces that are both safe, but also brave spaces where people can be challenged and learn on both sides of the friendship. Lord, thank you for each one of these fellows, for their desire to journey into this program for the year and take time away from their studies and other things to wrestle with difficult questions and what it means to love God, love their neighbor, and love themselves. So Lord, help us to steward these friendships well, and give us your grace and mercy and also your joy. We ask all this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
And
All right.
Christy,
Thank you all so much. So good to see your faces, and hopefully our paths will cross in person. Oh, and we have wonderful events coming up with before you leave with Theological Horizons this year. We have 2 faith and work forums this fall. The one in October, and all these events will be on our website and in our emails, but we have Doctors Lee and Cameron Webb are going to be sharing at our Faith and Work Forum in October. Interviewed, and all of them are getting interviewed by one of our fellows. So that will be Cameron, who's pre-med, and I'm excited about that. And I think we're going to actually provide lunch now. Woo! Thanks that COVID is done. We were not able to when Dean Jenkins shared. And then in November, I'm really excited. We have Chris, my husband's uncle, who started the faith and law program at Emory. He's now retired, and he has a real passion for he works in vacant land and writes public policies about vacant land in cities or something. He's very cool. Anyway, he's coming in November to share. And then we just found out recently that Brian Stevenson is going to be our Scoper lecturer for next year, which is really huge. I hope you all know who Brian Stevenson is, author of Just Mercy, started the Equal Justice Initiative. So what's so exciting is he has been asked by the UVA Law School, UVA Batten School, College of Arts and Sciences, Monticello, and said no to all of them in the past year. And little Theological Horizons, with our little staff of 2.5, I'm the half, he said yes. It's just like we still are like pinching ourselves. He only accepts 1% of all requests, but he will be here March 29th in JPJ Arena. So mark
Wow.
your calendars. I was really hoping we'd get to have like conversations and like like get to rub elbows with him, but I think it's kind of an in and out. But he will be here in the flesh, and we're going to try to have some companion events around that. But these are all great opportunities to bring your fellows and or just show up and bring friends and family. But yeah, we're really excited about those. And
Nicely done.
yeah, and
Cool.
every Friday we have free lunch. If you guys happen to be around and you are hungry, you can come have lunch with about 30 generally undergrad students. But we have a great time and good conversation Fridays at 1 o'clock at Common Grounds on Rugby Road.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's all. All
Okay.
right. Thank you all
Fantastic.
so much.
See you
Nice
all.
Nice to meet
All right.
you.
to you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.